Hello, everybody. Oh my gosh, let me get this. I was giggling a little bit because my son was talking to me, so have to giggle. All right, there we go. Let me get my volume up. Here we go. Hey, hey. All righty. So this is all talking about moons, moon phases, and how they can kind of affect us. And so I always like to kind of let me get started here. I got to get all situated. So, and of course, my dogs are going to play. They always do that. Every time I want to go live. Never happens any other time. The only time they start acting like literal animals is when I'm getting ready to do a live. So, like, really. Anyway, okay. So I love doing these videos. And the reason why, because I have a lot of people asking me, when can I make moon water? When do I put the crystals out? When do I sage? When do I do this? When do I do that? So I like doing these because it really helps to kind of break down these phases and when's the best time to do what, right? So I'm going to start by kind of talking just a little bit about, like blood moons, things like that. So first and foremost, understand that if you are in the southern hemisphere, you're the complete opposite. So now the new moon is still new moon there, but like spring equinox is fall equinox there. So anything in that southern hemisphere is going to be opposite of us. So I have to kind of start by prefacing that. So because they're the opposite side of the globe. So they are a little bit opposite in certain things. The blood moon basically is when there's a total lunar eclipse and the backside of that moon gets kind of backlit a little bit red, or kind of that pinkish red, and that's why they call that a blood moon. So now a black moon is when you have two, I think it's full moons. Yeah, when you have two full moons in a month. So that's the black moon. So you'll hear that kind of a lot too, but a lot of people, when they think of black moon, they're like, oh, it's bad. I'm like, no, it's not. It's fine. So another thing is with the eclipses. So I want to include the eclipses on in this one because people do respond and react differently to eclipses, just like they do full moons too. So understand that a full moon can actually pull an ocean tide. We're mostly made of water. So don't think for a second that that energy isn't going to affect you. It will. And the one thing I've also found is that the more intuitive you become, the more you work on your spiritual development, the more that you become more connected, the more lunar you're going to be. Now, women have a cycle that's every 28 days, which happens to be full moon to full moon, or new moon to new moon, however you want to look at it. Men have a 24-hour cycle, which is with the sun. So the sun is 24 hours, sunrise and sunset, right? That's 12 hours, but sunrise to sunrise, that's 24 hours. So a man's cycle, masculine energy, sun, is 24 hours. Women's cycle, 28 days, moon, lunar. So when they talk about masculine, feminine energy, that's really what they mean when they're talking about moon and the sun and the stars and stuff like that. The more intuitive you've become, especially notice it's with women, the more intuitive you are, the more spiritual you are, the more lunar your body will become. So I get my period every full moon. I'm in the middle of my cycle on the new moon, when actually it should be the opposite. You actually want your period when you're menstruating, you actually want that on the full moon, the new moon, because the new moon is all about beginnings, right? So I'm just clearly opposite on my cycle. But you will notice, especially ladies, that your cycle will actually be a little bit more in simpatico here with the moon. I sleep excellent during new moons, and in full moons, which we're just getting out of a full moon, nobody sleeps well in a full moon. All right. So you're also going to notice sleep patterns sometimes will get disrupted as well. I mean, sometimes, sure, they get disrupted even with, solar flares. Sure. Yeah. Okay. But I'm saying, generally speaking, full moons, people just don't sleep in full moons. New moons, people usually sleep like a baby and they dream kind of crazy. So I do want to talk about the 8 phases of the moon and the cycle that they go in. And what are some things that you can do within that phase and some things you shouldn't do. All right. So I'm going to start off by talking about the new moon. So the new moon in the sky, black, right? You can't see anything. That's what a new moon is. You don't get to see the moon because it's completely covered. So new moons, believe it or not, best time to go on a first date, as long as it's not in a Mercury retrograde. So going on a date in a new moon, again, it's all about new beginnings, right? New moon, new beginnings. That's what that means. That's why we want to sage in a new moon. So it's all about that new intent, clearing out the old energy. It's also an excellent time for those of you that might want to journal. Excellent time to journal along with that. It's also the best time to set intents. The new moons are when you're like, okay, God, I got my goal list. This is what I need. So new moons are great for setting intents, journaling, new dates, fresh new starts, letting go of the past, all that stuff, right? New moon literally equals new beginnings. So the worst thing you can do in a new moon is quit something that you relatively enjoy. So like I said, you don't want to necessarily have an ending. You want to have those beginnings. The other one is that you really don't want to be around energy vampires in that new moon. They will drain you faster in a new moon than a full moon, believe it or not. So new moon is when we kind of want to avoid energy vampires. Energy vampires are the unenlightened, the overtalker, the dramatic, the one that you can't stand. That's usually who that is. And 9 times out of 10, it's your family member. So it's also a great time to move in a new moon. It's also a really good time to begin anything new. Just like I said, new moon, think new beginnings, right? So that's also a really good time, like I said, just to maybe meet new friends, things like that. All right. So usually when I think of new moons, though, for me, yes, it's about new beginnings, but it's fairly introspective. I'm like, okay, who am I? Where am I going? What do I want? Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, here we go. So that's the first phase that I'm going to start with, is that new moon, right? So the second one is the waxing crescent. So that's when you're looking up at the sky and you can just see that little, what looks like that little strip or that little, kind of a crescent, literally crescent moon. So that's a really good time then to really set those intents. That's a really good time to write that goal list down, put it on the bedroom wall, and really start thinking about what it's like to already have it. Not how to get there, not who you need to talk to, none of that. Just imagine what it's like to already have it. So that's the best thing to do in a waxing crescent. The other thing is really pay attention to your signs, your signals, but especially your dreams, because usually in a waxing crescent, dreams are a little crazy. So remember, there's 3 types of dreams that we can have. We can have a visitation dream. That's when you go to visit mom and dad that have crossed over. We have the precognitive dream, which is when we can kind of see the future in our dream state, which is also where deja vu comes from. And then the last one are those reality type dreams. Those are the ones you want to look up because usually it has to do with a subconscious thought or maybe an emotion that you're going through that maybe you're not aware of, right? So that's usually the best time to dream, because dreams are really going to be pretty intense during that waxing crescent. It's also at grind time. So this is when I'm usually pushing people. I'm like, okay, let's roll. Like, let's go. Quit talking, more doing. So that's usually what I consider grind time, is just like, what you need to do. Put one step in front, one step forward, and everything else will happen for you. Daydreaming is really important during this time with a waxing crescent, really important to daydream. The worst thing you can do, the things not to do in this one, is to go back to those old habits. And it's hard to break old habits because we're comfortable there, right? We go back to old things because it's comfortable. It's hard to go to new things. And so the waxing crescent, it's really tempting to go backward and go old school when you really want to stay new school. So that's the one time that it gets really tempting to go back old school. The other one is that waxing crescent is not the time to be lazy. Don't put things off. Don't procrastinate. That's the worst time to do that. So like I said, it's go time. And then along with that, make sure that you're celebrating the wins. So a lot of times if you're doing something that you're really scared to do, and then you go ahead and do that, celebrate that. So I'm like, go out to dinner, celebrate that. That's what you're supposed to do. Celebrate the little wins, not just the big ones. All right. So that's the waxing crescent. That's that next phase. Now the phase after that is the first quarter moon. also known as the half moon. So this is all about balance. Think about it. The moon looks halfway covered. So that's perfect for balance. That's regaining your balance. So if you're imbalanced, that's the time to be like, okay, I need, after my grind time, I need a little bit of time to sit and chill a little. The other thing is that's usually when we start to notice a few obstacles coming around. We're like, there's the disturbance in the force. I think I'm going to have a problem with this chickie over here. So that's when you start to notice these little minor obstacles that very well could pop up. So, and it's different than anxiety, obviously, right? So when I'm talking anxiety, worry, I'm talking about, I see this as being a possible problem. I see that as being a possible problem. So, and then you begin to find those solutions on how to navigate through it if it happens or it comes to. The other one is that usually the half moons is when we need a little boost. Usually in half moons, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to listen to a motivational video while I'm putting on my makeup, right? I'm going to listen to something a little bit different that's a little bit more push or motivational driven, because usually on those half moons, I need a little bit of a push because we're getting tired. We're busted our ass for a week. Now we have this week and I'm like, ugh. So that's usually when I'm usually listening to some sort of a motivational video or anything like that on YouTube, right? There's tons of them out there. The biggest thing for you not to do on this one is pick your battles. Like I said, is it really true or is that in your head? So pick your battles. The other one is it's really easy at this one to self-sabotage and be like, oh, well, those not old habits, but the old thoughts, like I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, I'm not strong enough to do this, I need some help, type of stuff starts happening. So if that's the case, then we want to go back to working on that motivational factor. So that's why I'm a big proponent in goals and writing those goals down. So you're literally looking at them every day. So that's your main focus, not the other foolish stuff that might happen or come up. So that's, again, this is a perfect time during those half moons to take a break, look at those goal lists and go, yep, that's right. That's what I'm working my butt off for. And then go back to that grind. So like I said, that half moon it's really easy to self-sabotage with the lack of either lack of motivation or lack of self-confidence. So the next one after that first quarter moon is that gibbous, I think. Yep, it's a gibbous moon. This is when we're taking kind of that big step back and reestablishing those goals. Do we still want those goals? Yep, we do. Do we still want that? Oh, no, I thought I wanted that. I guess maybe I don't want that. So we're going to pick something else. This is also when your intuition's pretty high during this point. It's right before that full moon. So we're talking the phase that's right before the full moon. But that gibbous moon is really when it's almost like your intuition's on point so well that you're able to really kind of see above everything and go, now I'm seeing the big picture. Now I'm seeing what I need to do over here, who needs to get a boundary put up, what needs to, so it's like an overview. So right before the full moon, there's an overview, and then the full moon's usually drama. So that's when all these things that you're seeing very well could come to the surface. That's when truth comes to the surface too, but we'll get there in a minute. So I'm talking about, like I said, right before that full moon, your intuition's going to be really high. This is almost always when I get a flood of messages on Facebook going, okay, I'm seeing replicating numbers, I'm seeing my birthday, I'm hearing people talk. I'm like, welcome to the club. So, but that's almost always when they really kind of get overwhelmed with it because they're really tapped in and their intuition is very, very high. This is also when creativity and when these creative ideas hit people. So this waxing gibbous, whenever I think of this, I always think of writers and poets and artists that can't put the pen down. They can't put the paintbrush down because they are in the zone. So I will tell you, I've written 2 books, right? And a majority of those were right before a full moon. So because I was in the zone, I'm like, shut the hell up, don't talk to me, leave me alone. Like I was zoned in that way. So that's an excellent time to really meditate, work on your spiritual stuff. Great opportunity to do that stuff. So the other thing is that if you choose to kind of make some new plans at that point because the old ones aren't working, that's cool. Now you can adjust or navigate during one of these times. It's totally fine. The biggest one is when your intuition's really high, your logic's usually pretty low. And this is when we get really easily distracted. So this is a time where we're either like super hyper focused and hang on one second. Hey, you can't get on there. He's got my mouse. So, that's funny. He's got my mouth, my dog. So my cursor was going all over and things were popping up. I'm like, ah. So he was on my backpack, which has my mouse in it. So anyway, so the worst thing that you can do on a waxing gibbous moon is piss it away, especially piss it away with electronics, staying on the phone too much, watching too much TV. Remember that your phone and your TV, they're time suckers. That's what they are. They're time suckers. So it only distracts you from that creative energy, that intuitive energy, that really good like zone. You know what I mean? And that's the best thing I can do is that when you're in a spiritual zone, if you've never been there, it's freaking magical and you don't want to get out of that zone. So that's the worst time to piss that energy away, wasting it on electronics, is during that waxing gibbous moon. All right. So next is going to be that full moon. So full moon, ask any nurse or teacher or cop about a full moon. So some are more dramatic than others. This full moon that we just had, pretty mild, not too bad. Depends on where it's kind of located at. But this is when, like I said, we have that overview and we assume that other people can see that overview. And if they don't, then we get really emotional and pissy and nah. So full moons are just full of drama. That's all it is. But these things sometimes have to occur because one, the truth needs to come out. Two, if you're not supposed to be in that relationship anymore, things are going to happen for you to get the hell out of that relationship. So this is a lot of times when we see drama within relationships. I know this sounds so strange, but this is usually when I see lots of murders, lots of suicide during this time. Usually that's when I see the most of that. So because it really has a strong pull on the emotional factor. So like I said, if it can pull an ocean tide, don't think for a second it's not going to pull on you, because it will. So the other thing is that with the full moon, it's the best time to make crystals, put the crystals outside to charge. So because the full moon has a wonderful way of cleansing and charging your crystals. So I always have to tell my ladies, don't forget about your earrings, don't forget about your jewelry, because just because they're diamonds doesn't mean that they're not crystals. They are. So I don't put mine outside. I just put them on the windowsill inside because I got neighbors. So yeah. I hate working the hospital on a full moon. Nurse here, spot on. Yeah, that's all my going. It's so predictable. It's almost a joke. So that's when like full moons are pretty dramatic. But that's a lot of times when I see like murders, like lots of drama. So the other one is, like I said, the biggest thing is it's supposed to create a little bit of drama. It's supposed to have the problems absolutely come to the surface. That's the point. So is to have stuff come to the surface that maybe you're not seeing, or because something needs to change because you're not supposed to be at that job anymore. You're supposed to be at this job. So a lot of times that's when the drama begins. The other thing about a full moon is that the energy is pretty high and pretty intense. So it's really easy to get a lot of stuff done during a full moon because there is a little bit more energy involved. So nurse in a jail, it's horrible. I could not do your job. Could not do it. So my butt would be in a sea salt bath every freaking night. Like I couldn't do your job. So the biggest thing to remember, or don't, maybe these are some don'ts not to do in a full moon. One, it's really easy to miscommunicate. So in a full moon, say what you mean what you say. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't get me wrong. There's a way to say it nice. So there's a way to say it with grace. You don't have to be a butthole about it. So, but at the same time, speak your truth. That's the time to sit down and have that conversation. Be like, you know what? We need to have a chat. So that's the time to do that, is during a full moon, because it's easier to communicate with truth and to be heard in a full moon. The other thing is that I have as a don't for the full moon is you can't blame other people for your failures or for your circumstances or for other stuff, because blaming anybody for where you're at is irrelevant. It's because you put yourself in that position in the first place. And a lot of people don't like to hear that, but it's true. So that's why you don't want to blame other people for your circumstances in a full moon, but it's really easy to do it. Well, I would be this if you weren't blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, so easy to do. And that's when I'm like, that's another no-no on my list. And then lastly, well, patience. Nobody has patience in a full moon. Nobody. This is why you see lots of accidents, middle fingers getting thrown around while you're driving. So, but that's definitely full moon stuff. But the biggest thing is I always tell people, don't forget your patience. Bring your patience with you in a full moon because everybody needs it. So that's a big one. The next one is I got it right there. I had to do notes on this one because I wouldn't remember. Is the waning gibbous. It's disseminating moon. So this is a good time to check in. So this is right after the full moon. This is when we check into self. This is when we're introspecting and go, why did I put myself in that position? Why did this person treat me this way? Why? This is where the whys come. Who, why, who, what, when, where, all that stuff, right? So that's the biggest thing is really doing those big introspective moves and going, okay. And then that's usually the best time to set boundaries. That's when we're like, all right, I thought you were a friend. You're not. You're an acquaintance. That's cool. I'm going to put up a boundary, not to keep you out. I'm putting up a boundary to protect myself. So that's a big one. The other one is with that introspective move of trying to let go of circumstances that are out of your control. So that's not easy. Letting go circumstances, problems, things like that. So again, introspection, let go. That's kind of the name of the game. When it comes to that disseminating mood. The other one is, this is a lot of times when I see people kind of get on their soapbox and they're like, let me tell you what I've been through. And almost always that's when I see it is during this waning gibbous moon. And that's when people really kind of stand there proud and be like, yeah, I screwed up. I did. But you know what? I wouldn't be here if I didn't make those decisions in the first place. So you know what? It's a-okay. So a lot of times in a waning gibbous moon, I see people like retire. That's almost always when they put in their 2-week slip a notice, is that retirement, when they quit or end a relationship or they're like done. It's almost always during that waning gibbous, right after full moon. So that's when people put up those serious boundaries. They quit, they move away, they do all this stuff. So that's also a really good time then, is after that, is to kind of clear your space. So if you wanted to remodel, if you wanted to repaint, touch up, a lot of times this is the time when we go back home. We go back to that simplicity, because when things are out of control, the first thing we want to control is our home. So a lot of times then we introspect, but we need something to do, and almost always it's cleaning the house. So the next one is, so this, with the waning gibbous, tying up those loose ends. That's another big one. It's just, again, it's just more like, okay, yeah, we're done. So, and I got this project, but I got to finish it up. So it's a lot of just tying up all these little loose ends. The biggest thing is during a waning gibbous, right after the full moon. It's not really when you want to start new projects. Wait on that. It's also not a really good idea just like go super all in. Like, it's cool to retire. That's great, because you kind of maybe have a plan B or whatever, but it's not a good idea to just like lay all your chips in and go all in during that time. That's not the best time to do that. And then this is the time also, after that full moon, you've seen the red flags. You're going to see them even more during this phase. Don't ignore the red flags. So and what do I mean by the red flags is that my empaths are perfect at this. My empaths are always like, well, they didn't mean that. Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. It's no different than somebody telling you, They'll tell you. I mean, they'll tell you, I'm not an asshole, but no, you are. You just said you are, and I'm gonna believe that. So, but my empaths are like, oh, they don't mean that. No, no, they do. They do. So that's when you're gonna see these red flags, and it's all gonna like come together for you to go, oh, there it is. So not necessarily truth to come out, but you're just like, wow, I thought you were a better person. I really thought you were a better person. So that's kind of always happens during that time. Okay, so the next one is that third quarter moon, or also known as the last quarter moon. So like I said, we had the full moon, then we got the waning gibbous, and now we're going into that third quarter. So this is when, again, this is a lot of times when I'm listening to those motivational videos again, it's hard to keep that momentum during this time. So this is when I go back to watching those motivational videos again. This is also a really good time that a lot of people then like gain that second momentum and they get really ambitious. This is a lot of times when people will like get online and be like, hey, I want to teach this. I want to do that. I want to teach this. So I see a lot of that during that third quarter moon. The hardest part during the third quarter moon is keeping your balance. That's really hard to do because this is when people are like, balls to the wall. They're like, nope, I'm going all to work. I'm like, okay, you got to have play in there too. They're like, nope, nope, I'm just going to work. I'm like, you're going to burn yourself out. So make sure that you're balancing that out. And then this is also a really good time after that full moon. It's also a really good time to like form new habits and break those old bad habits. So this is the best time to diet and exercise, is during that third quarter moon or that last quarter moon. It's actually the best time to diet and exercise. So, and I always think of these moon phases a lot like a clock here. So, because the new moon is at 12 and then that full moon is at 6, right? So now we're talking about that 9 o'clock point. So, and that's usually the best time, like I said, to break habits, keep that momentum going. We're rebalancing after we got our boat rocked here. So we're kind of rebalancing everything out. So, but it's not nearly as emotional as what that full moon was. This is a lot of times when people get a little egoic. And then this is usually when they butt heads with family members, or they butt heads sometimes with authority, because they're like, nope, you don't know what I've been through, and I'm going to tell you all. I'm like, so that's almost always when they start butting heads a little bit because their ego gets the best of them, because at that point, your intuition is probably the lowest. So it's at the highest at that 3 o'clock point, 9 o'clock point, it's actually the lowest. So, but it's all like pretty go, 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 and fairly egoic. And then lastly, the worst, the one that you think you don't want to do in this is just be really resentful. So this is a lot of times when people pout. So I'm like, are you done pouting? You've been pouting for 14 years. Are you done now? So a lot of times I'll see that resentment really kind of come out, or that bitterness come out during that last quarter moon. So, and then lastly, right before the new moon is that balsamic moon, or that waning crescent. So that is, like I said, that's about 10:30, right? That's about where that clock is at. So that's when we rest and relax, baby. That is vacation time. That you can start projects during that time, it's fine. But this is a lot of times when we're sitting back going, what a ride, right? So we're doing that introspection, but yet we're patting ourselves on the back and going, wow, we did it. We learned our lessons. I learned this, I learned that. This is also when self-care is damn near mandatory, is right before that full moon. So that's a lot of times when people will get massages, get some Reiki done, get realigned, rebalanced. They'll go outside, they ground, they do all the things that they need to do to rebalance and recenter. So I love the waning crescent because that's, like I said, vacation time. And it's actually the best time to make a vacation or go on a vacation, is during that waning crescent and the new moon, because there's no drama. So weirdly enough, when I plan my vacations, I actually kind of look for the full moons and stay away from them because they're fairly dramatic, right? So not that I have a lot of drama in my life, I don't. But at the same time, we're still traveling with other people. So I don't need to see the drama either. But a lot of times I'm going to try to plan it right before the new moon or at that new moon point, because it's all about new beginnings. And what a better place to be with new beginnings than a vacation. And not only that, that's a lot of times when I get some of the best ideas, like really good ideas, is usually during when I'm on vacation on a new moon. So So hopefully that kind of sums it all up, because like I said, these cycles are a lot like a clock. So, and I really see that, and I see a lot of patterns. Like I said, that new moon, new beginnings. We get to that 3 o'clock point, rebalance, recenter, look at the goals again, we're good. And then we get to that full moon, here comes the drama. We get to that third quarter moon, we're looking around going, oh, that was a hell of a ride, I ain't gonna do that again. And then we're like, renewal, and then we get right back up at that high new again. And so, like I said, just remember that a girl cycle is feminine in energy. The moon is feminine in energy. Therefore, we are 28 days. That's 28 days. Men are more masculine, sun, and that is every 24 hours. So I noticed that pattern as well. So these are just some of the things that I've noticed. I'm like, if you guys do your own research, I'm sure you're going to find a ton more. But after reading people for almost 10 years, you really do get to see a pattern. So, and the patterns are blatantly obvious. The other thing is that I wanted to talk a little bit about the lunar eclipse, solar eclipse, right? So there's always a window period. So we have usually like a lunar eclipse, and then we have a solar eclipse. So, and there's a 2-week window, and those eclipse windows shake stuff up, really shake stuff up. So the lunar eclipse will shake everything up. You have 2 weeks of feeling like it's a full moon, like drama, 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 drama. And then that solar eclipse come by and you're like, that's it, I'm done. And so you go in very gray, seeing everything like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what's going on, lunar eclipse. And then solar eclipse happens. You're like, that's it, I'm done. And it's black and white. I'm in, I'm out. I like you, I don't like this job. I thought I liked this job. Now I really don't like this job. I'm out. So I like eclipses because much like a full moon, yeah, they bring stuff to the surface, but eclipses are like, oh, you're not seeing your lesson. Okay. And then they shove you into that lesson hard. So, and it's almost like you get through it and you're like, I knew that this was an issue, but I didn't know it was that big of an issue. I'm like, well, that eclipse is going to bring it out for you. So it always does. So hopefully, like I said, this really helps you guys to understand more of these lunar cycles here. And most women, like I said, are more lunar. So because we're more emotional, but men are emotional too. Don't get me wrong; they just don't show it. But that's why I wanted to talk about this, like I said, moon activity, because it does, in a way, will not it will affect your emotions. It just will. Like I said, we're mostly made of water. If it can pull a tide, it's going to pull you, right? So if you guys have any more things about like making moon water, I did a video on that on my YouTube channel as well. And so same with like charging crystals, cleansing crystals, I did all that as well. So I want to thank everybody for watching. If you guys have any more questions, especially when it comes to moon stuff, don't feel free to message me or anything like that. If you need any more information, check out my website at psychickelly.com. If you need crystals, obviously we're going to go to awakeningstore.com. So, but at the same time, like I said, I want to thank everybody for watching. Make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss out on anything. I've been doing a lot more Q&As. I'm also going to be doing a lot more informational videos like this. If you guys have any videos that you want to see, let me know. There's only like 3 really videos that I want to get paid for because I need money. I mean, we got to eat, right? So, but I do spirit guides, meditation, and empaths. So those are 3 videos that I do, but those are paid ones for like $25. And those are like also recorded. So if you purchase one of those, then you get that recording. So I don't really have anything coming up in March, but April I do. So, but like I said, make sure that you subscribe also to my newsletter too, so you guys don't miss out on any information. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this helps you to get to understand the moon phases just a little bit better. All right, guys, take care. Thanks for watching.